Hello everyone, this is Nortes432 here. Let me apologize in advance for it being a month since I released my latest video. That would be my fault. I've been doing other things and I've really thrown this to the side for a very long time. But do not fret, I am going to do it now to make you happy because that's my job. When do I get paid? Let's go! fLuTtEr 7. Silence Grave. Fetch me the Libris Mortis Exaltum, Volume 4, Twilight said coolly as she entered the fourth week of her self-imposed exile in the Forsaken Halls. She was not wearing the goggles anymore, completely used to the shadows in the corners of her eyes. The skeletal alicorn flew to where the book was stored, with 6 more volumes in that collection to go. He retrieved the tome and flew back, placing the book to his master's side. Twilight floated the book onto the desk and flipped through it till she found a certain page. Silence Grave, how would you like to be able to speak? It would be nice to have some real conversation. Twilight's ears twitched. Not that you're not so much fun. She spoke to the air and received hushed whispers. Quit complaining. I'm going to put you to good use and give you a mouth. But if you talk too much, I'll end the enchantment. Her horn glowed a dark purple with pale white moat. Runes appeared all over Silent Grave, then faded into him. Silence Grave, what is my name? Dark Mistress Twilight Deathspark. A haunting, cold, and emotionless voice spoke. Twilight rubbed her temples. My name is Twilight Sparkle. Where did you get the rest of that? And Deathspark? I don't get it. His skeletal minion remained still and silent for but a few seconds. Dark Mistress, the title you have earned for your mastery over Death Wavering. Deathspark, to signify your evolution from a lesser being into an immortal. Twilight raised an eye. Immortal? Since when did I become immoral? I don't feel any different. Silent Grave was silent again for a short while before answering. Our Dark Mistress has achieved immortality upon completing the Infinitium Exrealium Verstis Immortalis. Twilight looked at the ancient tome in question. She didn't recall reading the book in full. She did not remember opening it to start reading, and then closing it, having apparently been at the final page. She had not dared touch the book again for some reason. Very well, returned the Infinitium Exrealium Verstis Immortalis to the shelf. Twilight grinned. Deathspark. I like it. She then got back to work. After only a few minutes, her ears twitched. The silence. She looked up at her servant, who had just returned from putting the tome away. I'm releasing your voice. The silence is maddening, more so than the whispering. She released the spell in Silence Grave, and the whispers returned. Twilight sighed, oddly relaxed. Much better. Blackthorn's lair was now an hour flight into the Everfree Forest. Well, an hour flight for fLuTtEr, or even Rainbow Dash. Most other Pegasi would require at least 2 or 3 hours to reach here. fLuTtEr flew freely and high in the sky, knowing that no pony would ever know she was here. She flew toward a massive tree that towered over the rest of the forest and landed on one of the 5-length wide branches that stretched for over 100 lengths straight out. Gripped in her teeth was her latest prey, still alive, but unable to move. An unfortunate camper. fLuTtEr's long, slender tail was strong and flexible, almost like a snake's tail. It was tipped with a slender, needle-like needle that could inject a slow-acting, paralyzing poison. This latest transformation had begun almost a week ago, and had been quite painful. fLuTtEr could not argue with the results. It was quite an interesting and fun little tool. Her hooves had split into 3 and sharpened into sharp claw hooves. Her teeth were fully feline, which had began to change when she began consuming the flesh of ponies. Her favorite part was the heart and eyes. fLuTtEr's tongue could stretch out to near the length of her head, and was very flexible and rough, like a cat's tongue. fLuTtEr released her prey, a female unicorn. Bright pink in coat, dark green, light green, striped mane and tail, green eyes, and a watermelon-sliced cutie mark. That was a fun little taste you gave me, fLuTtEr smiled, moments before she bit onto Melon's hind ankle, digging teeth into the bone. She then dragged the paralyzed unicorn into a large opening in the tree. The opening went deep into the trunk, into a large hollow. The walls were lined with natural platforms and shells. The shells were full of skulls, hundreds and hundreds of skulls, mostly pony, but there were also human, griffin, a few smaller dragon skulls, and many more. fLuTtEr didn't know what most of those skulls were, but did not worry. Mama's home. I brought you fresh meat, she almost sang out. Melon heard a soft thump behind her, then a soft growl. Now, Mama will feed you. Don't you worry. fLuTtEr smiled down at Melon. I said your name was Melon, right? Okay. Very sorry to interrupt, but next part of this story is very disturbing to younger viewers due to the very sexual nature, and I cannot possibly upload this to YouTube without having possibly to face some kind of judgment of some sort. Cannot possibly read this and upload this to YouTube. Again, I'm very sorry to interrupt the story for this, but enjoy what I have left, and if you actually want to read this part, the original fanfiction is in the link, like always, so enjoy what I have provided. Thank you. fLuTtEr was very happy to find her strange magical venom not only paralyzed her prey, taking nearly an hour of hunting and terrorizing. Once paralyzed, the prey would not die unless the heart or brain was too heavily damaged, even if the body was drained of blood. fLuTtEr always made sure to have drained the victim of most of their blood, usually shortly after the paralysis took effect. After the best organs were consumed, fLuTtEr would use her prehensile tongue and mouth to slowly suck out the eyes. Melon almost welcomed the darkness as hers were sucked from her sockets, but the sound of them being chewed and eaten was sickening. Finally, oh yes, finally Melon knew no more, as her heart was ripped out and eaten by fLuTtEr. The rest of the flesh was stripped from the bones and fed to Whisperwing. After eating, he would breathe on an acid on the skull, which melted everything but the bone itself. The skull was then added to the collection on one of the shelves. After the feeding, fLuTtEr would snuggle and sing Whisperwing to sleep before heading back home, washing up and reverting to Fluttershy along the way. A week after the lone traveling watermelon merchant has vanished, Applejack approached Fluttershy's cottage. It was very early in the morning, but she had to talk with her friend. She was a little surprised to see the Pegasus pony trotting out of the evergreen forest, carrying a little basket filled with flowers. "Morning, Sugar Cube," Applejack called out. Fluttershy was startled by the sudden call. "Eep!" She jumped and bolted behind a bush. Only her wide, gentle eyes peeked out. "Applejack?" she said softly, poking her head out from the flowering bush. "It's just me." Applejack chuckled as Fluttershy emerged and picked the dropped basket. Applejack helped pick up the scattered flowers. "I didn't mean to startle ya." It's all right." AJ smiled brightly. "Well, I was just coming by to ask ya first. The sheep are not wanting to come out of their pens for some reason. Do you have to see you specifically?" "Me?" Fluttershy's eyes almost seemed to smile. "Oh, of course. I'd love to help." Her ears twitched slightly and she sniffed the air. "But there's a storm coming from over the Everfree." "Storm's coming? Well, that might explain the sheep acting all sheepish," Applejack chuckled. "Think you can come over and have a chat with them?" "Of course. Let me just feed my animals." Fluttershy walked up to the sheep and smiled kindly. "Whatever is the matter? Can you feel the storm coming?" The sheep were all huddled together. "You can feel a storm is coming from the Everfree, but you don't have to be afraid. It won't be here till night." The sheep seemed to relax as Fluttershy told them about the incoming storm. "Outwool is really feeling funny," the sheep replied. A few random sparks of static would jump about on occasion, making the sheep flinch. Apparently the static in the air was reacting with their wool coats, making them feel uncomfortable. "You needn't be afraid." Fluttershy smiled at the huddled group. "I'm sure Applejack can make room for you in the barn tonight. Would you like that?" The sheep nodded, his small curled horns catching Fluttershy's attention. "Such pretty horns. A shame my baby doesn't have any," she thought. "Why don't you try to relax and enjoy the day?" "We'll try, but the air is just so heavy." Fluttershy nodded and continued telling them that they had nothing to worry about. "Storms like this are rare, but they never do any real harm, other than blowing down branches and making a lot of sound.
lightning and thunder will be scary. The barn has a lightning rod on it, so you should be protected. She turned to Applejack. Right, Applejack?
Of course! Y'all more than welcome to shelter there tonight. Applejack gave a reassuring smile. Well, okay. Thank you, Applejack. Thank you, Fluttershy. The lead sheep then turned to his fellow sheep. You all heard Fluttershy and Applejack. We can stay in the barn till the storm passes. They all cheered, then followed the pair of ponies to the barn. Once they were squirreled away and cozy, Applejack turned to Fluttershy. I don't know what I'd do without you. Applejack smiled as she headed outside. Behind the farm pony, and unseen by the sheep, Fluttershy grinned, her small fangs visible. One could only wonder, my dear friend. She glanced back at the sheep and smiled cutely. You stay in here. The storm will have passed by morning. She then trotted after Applejack. Outside, she spotted Rainbow Dash landing near Applejack. Hey, AJ, I came to warn you about a big storm rolling into Everfree. It'll be here by evening. I know about it already. Fluttershy told me and helped me with the sheep. They're downright spooked. Dash looked at Fluttershy, a little surprised. Hiya, Shy. How'd you know about the storm? You're no weather pony.
My little animal friends in the forest told me about it.
She lied. She could feel the power in the air. It would definitely be a strong lightning and thunderstorm.
They said there's a lot of static in the air.
Oh, of course the dead-alls be able to feel it, especially the birds. Dash chuckled. I'm even going to be bringing my house down to the ground so it doesn't get hit by lightning again. That was a real shocker last time. Fluttershy remembered that storm from a few years ago. It had frightened her tremendously, and she had actually hidden in a cellar, a place she was normally too scared to even enter on a bright sunny day. And I don't want to tow my house back from halfway across Equestria again. I remember that storm. Fluttershy helped me out with my animals that time too.
It was so frightening.
Fluttershy shivered. Y'all welcome to stay with the Apple family for tonight. I'd love to, but the weather team has to keep an eye out for anything that could go wrong. Heck, an old friend of my family is coming in from Plaza to help out. Lightning Rod is the only pony I know who can take the hit from lightning and laugh about it.
Oh, that sounds dangerous.
Fluttershy whimpered.
That is dangerous, right?
I've been hit once. Spent a month in recovery. Dash shuddered. That's why we called him in to protect the weather team. Good cow, Sugar Cube. Applejack bro-hoofed Rainbow Dash. You'll keep Ponyville safe, you hear? Can do. I gotta go and warn a few others who live in the area. Take care. Dash then tore into the sky and vanished from view. Fluttershy's eyes flickered red for a moment, unseen by the blonde pony.
I should get home and make sure all those animals will be safe.
She waved and, much to Applejack's surprise, flew off quite quickly too. She flew pretty quick there, but then she's always worrying about her critters. AJ shrugged and got to work preparing the farm for the storm. Fluttershy tended to her animals, loving and kind as always. They had no clue about her inner thoughts. But Fluttershy did. She could feel the connection between her and her beautiful baby. She could sometimes almost hear his thoughts. He never spoke, but his eyes showed a level of intelligence that could rival Twilight's, or even the princess's.
Mama's so smart of you, sweetheart. You're growing stronger and stronger. I can't wait till you can join me on the hunt. It will be so much fun.
She looked out the window and saw the 4 small grays. She knew now that Angel's death couldn't have been an accident, but she didn't worry about that. It's been a week, and Melon is stripped to the bone. I'm going to have to hunt again, but I don't have enough time to find any lone travelers or campers. The storm will make finding them almost impossible. She fumed as she entered the bathroom and shut the door. She looked at herself in the mirror, blood dripping from her eyes, forming blood-red stripes on the side of her face. Her coat darkened to a deeper yellow. Mane and tail went wild and feral, shifting from pale pink to a blood red that turned to a coal black at the tips. Her teeth elongated, sharpening to deadly points. Her pupils narrowed to slits while the soft green darkened and was streaked with red. The whites shifted to a disturbing black. She looked down at her forehoofs, watching them crack and split into 3, shifting and sharpening to become deadly weapons. Her tail stretched to nearly 1.5 times her length, becoming flexible and serpentine, and tipped with a thin zinger, much like a scorpion's. Her wings grew longer, slender, and strong. Flutter grinned. Her body had also grown a full hoof taller, with sexy, sleek muscles ripping rippling under her slightly feral coat. Her grin widening and allowing her mouth to open twice as wide as any normal pony could. Her long, very flexible tongue hanging out between her fangs, drool dripping onto the floor.
Mama is so beautiful,
she whispered to herself, her voice dark, husky, and sexy. She then sensed the presence approaching. It took only seconds to transform back. She didn't really even feel the shifting and cracking of bones or feel the tightening of her muscles. fLuTtEr loved how it felt. She was Fluttershy's neighbor, though she didn't know the yellow Pegasus all that well. Still, she knew that the shy pony was really good with animals, and her pet bird had just hurt its wing. The parrot had freaked out for some reason and flew through her house till he hurt his wing. She managed to put him in a cage and was now carrying him to the druid pony of Ponyville. She reached out with a hoof to knock at the door when it simply opened. Fluttershy stood there for a second before jumping back and squeaking in surprise. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to startle you. My bird hurt his wing and Fluttershy was right there in a flash.
Oh, you poor thing. Please, bring him inside and I'll see what we can do.
Thank you. Oh, I'm
Carrot Top, I know.
Fluttershy smiled sweetly.
We've been neighbors for years.
Oh, I didn't know you knew me. Fluttershy smiled in its face as she fawned over the parrot.
Oh, you poor little thing. Let Fluttershy see your wing. It might hurt a little, but I need to stretch it out.
She then glanced back at Carrot Top.
I'll bring him home once I've tended to his wing. Is that alright with you?
Oh, sure, of course, that's alright. Fluttershy nodded.
Oh yes, there's a big storm coming out from the forest. It's too big for the weather team to break up.
Yeah, Silver Lining and Skyline came and warned me earlier. Silver Lining and Skyline came and warned me earlier.
They make such a cute couple.
Fluttershy blushed a little.
But I have work to do. Be careful you don't trip or stub your hoof on the way home.
Or let the door hit you in 9/4 on the way out. She added to herself. Oh, well, thank you, and thanks for taking care of Boxer. He's one of my best friends.
Didn't you used to have a bunny?
Fluttershy suddenly asked as Carrot Top was halfway out the door. Yeah, but then he started having babies, and they started raiding my carrot garden. I had to release them into the forest before they destroyed my entire crop.
Oh, that's why the bunny population exploded last year.
She smiled.
Well, take care.
You too. I'll be seeing you later tonight, she grinned as the door closed. Seems I won't have to go far to get something to eat. The shadows in the corners of her eyes were no longer shapeless. They were the skittering forms of ponies who had tried to learn this magic, and failed so horribly. So horribly that their souls ripped themselves from their bodies and returned to this forsaken place. Twilight grinned as she gathered one of them and bound it to her wheel. The spectre thrashed and screamed in silence as it was forced to submit. Oh, it had fought back, and had caused harm, but the mistress's will was far too strong. Twilight watched as the black form changed to a pale, ghostly magenta ball of light, and floated around her, staying just out of her sight, or occasionally in the corner of her vision. Twilight looked at her left foreleg. It had been blackened, and she couldn't feel it anymore. Still, she could move it with no difficulty. It had been the price she had paid to gain his new servant. Now that she knew how to bind them, she could learn how to take precautions so she would not have to pay such a price ever again. Dark Lady Twilight's death spark's eyes flickered dark-eyed as she pressed on with her studies. To be continued! Okay then. So, that was fLuTTER 7. Yeah, and it was really interesting. Not much happened, except for that one scene that I had to cut out due to its nature, and how the fact that I could not possibly read that with a straight face. Again, I apologize. I did not expect that. So, when it caught me off guard, I sat down for a while and stared at nothing. But yeah. Okay, so, yeah. That's it. I rate this chapter... You know what? Screw it. I don't feel like reading anything. 9 out of 11. Good job. Rate that 4 out of 20. Whatever. It just keeps getting better and better, am I right? Dang. This is possibly the darkest thing I've ever seen. Well, see you guys next time. Ciao.